In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to use Python and the input command to collect information from the user of the program. This is very useful because it means we can make programs that can change what happens depending on information supplied at the time that it's run. So we are here in Replit. So I have gone to Birkdale S1 ciphers. You are probably in your own class cipher code. And this is exercise 1B, Python using input. You can see here that I have the markdown available, so I can see my instructions of what I'm supposed to do. And I've also got main.py loaded so that I can then work with the main code. So this is about collecting user data using input. And it says run the supplied code to learn how to use the input command. You can see that the way this works is that we have a named variable. In this case, name, or town, or horse, and they become equal to the contents of the input command. Input is similar to print in that it's followed by brackets, and then the question we want to ask the user appears inside speech marks, again, just like we had with the print command. So you can see that I have name equals input, what is your first name? Town equals input, which town do you live in? And then I'm going to print something based on the information supplied. Okay, so I'm going to run this code. What is your first name? So this is line 3. Name equals input, what is your first name? That has run. It's put the question on screen. And I've got a little block here saying that's ready to accept some input. So I'm going to call myself Bob, and press the enter key. And that word Bob has now been securely stored in a box that's called name. The box is labelled with name and it's now got the word Bob inside it. The next up is town equals input, which town do you live in? And I'm going to say Sheffield, and then press the enter key. This is all happening in the console window where our output happens. And it says, your night identity is Sir Bob of Sheffield. So it's taken the two pieces of information, name Bob, town Sheffield, and it's stitched them together into a new piece of information. If we look at where that happens, which is line 6, I've got print, and then brackets, and then what I want to appear on screen, your night identity is Sir. But then I've put a comma and then the word name. So the word name here is saying go away to the box called name, find out what's in it and put that on the screen. And then I've got comma and of, and then comma, and then go and find the box called town and put whatever is in that box on screen. So it's taking information like Bob and Sheffield and it's stitching them together by using commas between each part of the print statement. So the print statement is taking several different pieces of information here and putting them all together. Having finished that, it then goes on to my next question. So horse equals input. What is your horse's name? And I'm going to call it Nag and press enter. And then it says, here comes Sir Bob riding on Nag. So it's taking the information that's stored, and notice where it's stored isn't inside speech marks here, and it's not red. The words that appear directly are red and inside quotes. The words that get substituted for information are black and have no speech marks around them. So this is how we use a variable inside Python. Okay, if I go back to the markdown now, so that program's finished, but if I go back to the markdown and it says debugging the code, remove the comment at lines 12 and 14, so we remove the hashtags and fix any problems with the code and then run the tests. Okay, so I'm going to go to line 12 and I'm going to remove the hashtag. I'm going to go to line 14 and remove the hashtag. Okay. If I try to run this code, and we know there's going to be problems because of this red underlining, it says there's an invalid syntax at line 12. What is your favoured weapon? It thinks the favoured is where the problem starts. Now, if I have a look at this, what's different from this line 12 that's not working compared to, say, line 3 or 4 or 8? If you have a think about it, see what's different. On line 3 and 4 and 8, the questions are appearing in red. Here, everything is black. And the reason for that is because I forgot my speech marks. So I have to wrap my question inside speech marks. And notice a double speech mark has appeared there. So I'm just going to delete that extra one. If I try to run this now, it says there's a problem on line 14. And it reckons the problem happens just after name when I get to the speech mark is wielding a. Okay, so what's gone wrong here? Line 10 worked okay. Line 6 worked okay. What's different about line 14? And if we look at it, the word sir is in speech marks, and then I've got a comma. And name, which is a box that's got a label on it, is in black, and then I've got speech marks with is wielding a. So what I've missed here is I have to always separate different bits of information with commas. Sir, name, is wielding a weapon, and commas between each different part. After sir, after name, after wielding a, and then not needed after weapon. Try to run this now. It says, what's your first name? And I'm just going to say Fred. And what town do you live in? And I'm going to say Glasgow because it's a fine city. Your night identity is Sir Fred of Glasgow. What's your horse's name? Bess. And then it says, okay, I've got a trace back. I've got some problem on line 12. Name input is not defined. So I go to line 12 and I look at this input. Now input here is in black font. When I've got it correct, it's in a purple font. And what's gone wrong here is a common spelling mistake. It's not input, it's input, putting things into the computer. So if I change that to input and run it again, what's my name? Cedric. Which town do I live in? Barnsley. I'm Sir Cedric of Barnsley. What's my horse's name? Bones. Here comes Sir Cedric riding on Bones. What's my favourite weapon? It's obviously a mace. Sir Cedric is wielding a mace. All seems to be working now. To check whether everything is fine, I go to the little tick at the bottom of the sidebar here for the tests. And there are two tests, one Fred with a sword and one Percy with a warhammer. So if I run those tests, you'll see that they have indeed passed. My results are exactly what I expected, and so I would be in a position now to submit this code, and I've completed that particular task. So at the end of each of these exercises, check whether there's any tests available. There won't always be tests, but it's worthwhile checking if there are. Try running the tests. That might happen for you automatically. And only when you've fixed all the problems should you then submit your project for feedback from the teacher.